Hello, I'm Nobby. Welcome to my workshop. An apology that I've not been able to put up a video for quite a few weeks now, but my wife and I have just suffered a rather nasty bout of COVID, and it's literally put both of us out of action for about 3 weeks, and I just really haven't had the energy to come into the workshop and do anything. And it's only really in the last few days that I'm not exactly feeling fit and healthy again, but well enough to sort of start doing things now, like this morning cutting our lawn, which was a bit overdue to be done, but you know, that took me quite a long time to do. It just seemed to get out of breath very, very quickly. Anyway, in the last video I mentioned that what I was planning to do, or try to do, is to build the Ellie steam tram, and I showed you the book that I received as a present, which gives you details of the procedure of building it, build details and drawings of all the various parts. So what we've done, in fact my wife has done for me, is photocopied some of the plans for me, so that while I'm working in the workshop I don't destroy the book and get it all dirty. The plans, it doesn't matter if these get filthy dirty, and I can obviously make notes on them as well. This is going to be slightly different for me actually, because for this particular project all the measurements are metric. Well, most of them are metric. The larger measurements, some of the threads are actually imperial, but then when I'm more used to working in imperial measurements, because my main lathe, the Myford lathe, is an imperial lathe, and I just really find it a little bit easier to work with imperial measurements, but I'm sure I'll get by. I don't think there'll be a problem. I did mention in that video also my main concern was actually building the boiler, not the actual build of it, but actually soldering up the all the joints and fittings for it. I mean, I'm not very good at soldering at all, and of course this needs to be silver soldered, which I think is going to be even more difficult, because silver solder I gather needs a lot more heat than sort of regular solder or plumber's solder. So I had a comment from Kev of Mr. Factotum channel, and he suggested what he thinks I should really do is build the boiler first. He said if you feel that's going to be the most difficult part to do, if you build that first and that's a success, the rest of the build hopefully will be much easier. I think that was a very, very good piece of advice actually, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. During the time I've not been in the workshop, I've ordered up the necessary materials. I mean, these materials that I'm not going to have at all, so I ordered up a piece of copper tubing. The plans show 50.8mm diameter tube. This is standard, if you want to call it, plumbing tube, and is actually 54mm diameter. But I also spoke to another YouTuber who's built a number of these engines, Julia of Julia's Shed, and she did the same. She bought the same diameter tube, so I'm happy that that's going to be fine. This came to me in very, very nice condition. It's been very, very well cut, and in fact going around the ends of the tube with an engineer's square, it's perfect. It's going to be absolutely perfect. It's nice and square all round at both ends, so they've obviously used a very good pipe cutting tool to cut this for me. I did quite some time back make my own version of a Mammoth engine, and I had to buy a piece of copper tube smaller diameter than this, and I ordered a piece of tube up, and it was in terrible condition when it arrived. Apart from being dented, the ends were so roughly cut, obviously with a hacksaw, and it took a lot of work to get it squared up at the ends. But this is absolutely perfect. The plans call for the tube to be 100mm long. This is only a fraction over that, which is not going to make any difference at all, so that's going to be fine. There's nothing really to do with that. I have cleaned up around the inside here, and I think this literally is going to be fine as it is. Obviously it's going to need end caps making, so I've ordered a piece of copper for that as well. The plans suggest either something like 2 or 3mm thickness copper. I ordered 3mm because one of the other builders mentioned in the book here used 3mm thick copper, so I've got to cut some pieces off here, perhaps some squares of material, and then turn that on the lathe so that I can get a nice press fit inside the tube. It also has what do they call that? I forgot what the part is actually called, but there's actually a copper bar that goes through the centre of the tube itself, and is held on with little nuts at each end. So I've ordered that. That's it's called a stay, the bit that goes through the centre here. 6.4mm, a 1/4 inch. Well, I've ordered this as 1/4 inch. Now this is where the measurements change over. The threads on either end of this are 1/4 ME. Fortunately, I have got a set of 1/4 taps and a 1/4 die, so that's something I haven't got to buy. So I've got the material for that. This just happens to be sold in 30cm lengths, roughly 12-inch lengths. So obviously there's going to be a bit left over, but that's going to be handy for stock. Now all the other fittings, as I mentioned, there's nuts that hold this on either end, obviously through the copper plate, and also there are boiler bushes as well. There will be 2 boiler bushes on the top, and there's also a bush on the end plate as well. So when the end plate's on, there will be a stay through the centre and a bush roughly between the centre and the top here, which is actually the hole to fill the boiler with water. These it calls for these to be made out of bronze, unfortunately, bronze being very, very expensive, and I don't have any bronze, so I had to buy a piece of bronze. This is 1/2 inch, which is a big enough diameter to make the stay nuts and the 3 boiler bushes. The stay nuts are 12mm diameter, and the bushes are 12.5mm diameter. So I've bought a length of it, but I'm only going to be using quite a small part of that anyway. So these are also drilled through to take the various fittings that go in them, and again they're 1/4 ME taps. So again, now I've got the taps ready for that as well. So I'm sort of basically ready to start the build of the boiler now. Now I did spot on eBay while I was sort of recovering a bit indoors, I looked through eBay and found someone selling some silver steel. They're apparently having a clear out in their workshop. So I hope this is silver steel. But there was a sort of a bundle of bits of silver steel, some flat and some round. So it was an auction. I bid on it, and I did win these quite cheaply, knowing that silver solder rather is very, very expensive. I do have some silver solder and some special flux for it with round solder rods, which are actually a thinner diameter than this. So I think there's enough flux left there that I can use that for this build as well. Now the other thing is that I'm going to have to invest in another torch, gas torch. I've got a very, very cheap gas torch which I've used before, but it's only a butane torch, and from what I've gathered from watching other videos, that I don't think that the butane torch is going to be powerful enough or hot enough to work with silver solder. Now I've watched a number of channels who have enthused about the bullfinch gas torch. Now bullfinch for me I would feel would be a good choice, because it's actually made in England, but the bullfinch company is in Birmingham in the Midlands, and I looked through their website. Now what I don't want to do is what a lot of other people do is to buy a bullfinch gas torch that runs off a huge gas bottle, the type that you would use to attach to a barbecue. For one thing, to buy one of those gas cylinders and have it filled for the first time is actually a very, very expensive thing, and I'm not going to be doing a huge amount of silver soldering, I know that. So looking further through the website, I've discovered that they actually do a gas torch which takes smaller cylinders, which are sort of throwaway cylinders. Once they're empty, you throw them away, and these literally just screw to the base of the torch itself. Not unlike the way my butane torch works. I bought this quite a long time ago. I've used it quite a number of times. It was a very, very cheap import torch, and it uses butane gas cartridges, the type that are used in sort of portable gas burners for boiling up a kettle if you're camping and things like that. And this has served me well. I have done some silver soldering, but on very, very tiny parts with it. It was a real struggle, but it did work. So I think I'm going to have to invest in something much better. But it's a matter of putting some bits of my pension to one side as it comes through to be able to buy that. But I think by the time I've got all these bits ready and completed, probably I'll be in a position to order up one of those. Apparently it can be ordered direct from Bullfinch. You can order the torch, and I think the cylinders themselves are sold in packs of 2 or 4 or 6 or whatever. So the torch and a couple of cylinders I'm sure is going to be more than enough I'll need for doing this particular job. I had originally thought of start making part of the sort of body of the engine first, but I think I'll have to sort of put that off for a bit. I think in my previous video I mentioned that I had quite a few sheets of steel, and I actually the other day came in the workshop a couple of days ago, and I actually cut the material down to size, which forms the base for the engine. So the boiler will sort of sit above here on little standoffs, and underneath will be the framework, which takes the wheels of the unit. And I think I showed the piece of steel that I'd got to make the frame to go underneath. So that's obviously going to be put to one side for a bit, and then with this, that's the plans for the base. It requires a lot of holes drilled in it, and circular holes and square holes. This one here to take, if you like, the engine. This one where the burner comes up from the base. These are sort of air holes, which obviously will help raise the flame, and various other holes along here to hold the structure below as well. But obviously that will be put off for the time being. So I hope that I can get on with this. So I hope. In the previous video where I talked about the Ellie engine, I didn't get a lot of views on that, so it may be a lot of people just aren't interested in the Ellie engine at all, because there's obviously lots of other people have built these, so it may not be something that's going to appeal to lots of people. There will be quite a lot of things that I do which I'm not going to be able to film, but I think the soldering part, I'm not going to be able to film that, because that's going to be the most difficult part, I think, of the whole build. But hopefully I can show machining the end caps and threading this bar to go through here, the stay, and machining the various fittings from the bronze bar. So I'll try and do a video showing those particular parts. So that's it basically. I just wanted to make this a short video as a bit of an update on why you haven't seen me for a while. Many thanks to a couple of viewers that have contacted me to ask where I am and what's happened to me. So thanks for those. In fact, the two people that contacted me are both called David, which is strange, but anyway, there we are. One other thing I just wanted to mention, one of the channels I watch quite a lot, which I really enjoy, is this channel. I've written the name of the channel down. A lot of you are probably familiar with it. Tree Precision Machine Historias in Spain. The channel is hosted by a Spanish guy called Michel. A lot of the videos, unfortunately, are actually narrated in Spanish, which you can obviously put up captions in English, but I've noticed that most recently a lot of the videos that I've watched over the last few months, actually, there's been a sort of a robot voice in English, so you can understand exactly what he's doing. That it comes over in rather strange language, but it's an amazing channel. He's a professional engineer, but he also restores a lot of machinery and shows a lot of tooling that he has for the workshop as well. Some really interesting videos recently where he made a faceplate for his lathe out of aluminium, and it has, not like face plates that I'm familiar with, which have slots in them to take the hold downs. He's made his with T-slots, and in subsequent videos he's made all sorts of special fixturings for them as well. I found that absolutely fascinating. It's a channel well worth watching if you want something a little bit different. Obviously the stuff he builds in his workshop is way above my level, completely, being a sort of a professional, but interesting channel. I just thought I'd mention that if you're looking for an interesting channel to have a look at. Well, anyway, well, that's basically it for me. Thank you for joining me in the workshop. And I'm hoping that I can get something done to perhaps get a video up again, perhaps for next weekend if I can. Sort of bearing in mind that I've been sort of left a bit weak really after recovering from COVID, so I'm not able to work in the workshop for very long hours at the moment. But I'll see what I can do and try and bring you perhaps machining videos, which I'm sure you'll find a lot more interesting than some of the other stuff. Obviously I didn't bother to film hacksawing this piece out of a sheet, which was very boring actually. But there we are. So thanks again, and hopefully I'll see you again very soon. Bye for now. Hello, I'm back again. Something I failed to mention when I reviewed the earlier part of this video, when I was talking about the gas torches, the one I have being a butane torch. I've also got one of these chef's torches, which you can just use for like small soldering jobs, also butane. What I'm planning on doing with the bullfinch one is getting a propane torch, which the propane I gather is going to give me a much more powerful and hotter flame. So I thought I'd just mention that rather than confusing everyone. I'm not getting a different torch to run on the same gas as this. It will be obviously a completely different gas, which I'm sure most of you more experienced people understand anyway. So I thought I'd just mention that rather than confuse the issue completely. Anyway, that's it. Bye for now.